Good morning, everybody.
Hello.
So Ashlyn and I take the girls the day before Thanksgiving to a mall, and it was holiday shopping. It was festive, but every holiday that I can remember as an adult, there's always a kiosk in the middle of the mall that sells calendars, and I hadn't seen those in so long. It'd been a few years, I think, since I had seen those, and I realized, oh my gosh, like when I was in addiction, I would walk past those and it was like a magnet pulling my eyes in, pulling me in. And I remember like making certain that I found out where like the swimsuit editions were or whatever, just essentially the porn that was in the calendar.
Porn. That's just...
But my point is sometimes there is and sometimes there isn't. There's provocative calendars that are there. Here's the cool thing is, the cool thing is I walked past those calendars and I realized, oh wow, like I am not in the same place that I was, because that didn't have the pull, it didn't have the sting, but most importantly, it didn't have the shame associated with it that I used to have whenever I would walk by those. So I guess ultimately what I'm saying is what once was an environmental trigger for me is not anymore. And it was actually a really curious experiment. And
okay, so I'm going to share my side because I hadn't heard that before. So that's interesting because I think, wow, we really did go to the mall and you would look at the calendars.
Mm-hmm. Like I wouldn't stop and look at them because like no way would I be caught doing that.
No, but you looked at the dog ones.
Yeah, I looked at the dog ones for sure.
So my side of the Once Betrayed is driving down State Street in Salt Lake City, and there's a store called Mischievous. I don't even know. It's like maybe a strip club. I think it is.
I've got no idea.
I think it's a strip club. And so the name is like scandalous, and then it's all darkened and it's colorful. So it's like, okay, so we're driving by and I look at it and just think, okay, like whatever. There was a time when we would drive by things like that or walk by Victoria's Secret's giant lady in her underwear at the mall and think, what's he thinking? What's he doing? Is he going to go home and relapse? Like, that was where my mind would race. And that fear of, like, well, it was fear, but it was also that spike narrative that was feeding me, like, the story, right? Like, this is who Kobe is, and this is what he's likely doing. Okay, so...
But reality was, when I would walk by those things with Ashlyn and see a building or see the wall-length, Victoria's Secret model, I actually would go to shame because I was thinking to myself, oh no, Ashlyn sees that. I already feel like I'm guilty. I already feel like I'm being judged. I already feel like I'm bad because that's there. So this is how muddled Spike makes our existence as individuals and as partners together. Is Ashlyn's thinking he's going to go home and rest because he saw this. I'm thinking like, oh my gosh, she hates me. She's rejecting me. I'm no good. I'm a failure. I'm horrible because we know that I've got this issue with porn.
So here's what's different. We didn't say anything back then, but I would react in betrayal. So raise your hand if you can recognize this behavior. So maybe that would happen and I wouldn't sit in it for too long. Like maybe it would spin me for a minute and then I would just be like mad at you. Right? Like for no reason, all of a sudden I'm short, I'm quiet, I'm like super turned off and I'm mad at you.
That happened.
A lot.
But it's like, what else is, what else is your mind supposed to do?
So where would you go? Because we didn't talk about these things. We're both feeling this like anxious or shame. I'm feeling anxious. Not enough.
Well, the truth is that I would just be quiet because I would just mirror the emotions that she would, and
resent.
I wouldn't be resentful as much as I would just be like walking on eggshells. Really is where I would go because I didn't want to make it any worse. And now what's interesting is that same building that we drove by, I was like, oh my gosh, Ashlyn. And I hadn't expressed this before because I guess we hadn't been in a car together when we had driven by a building like that.
We've driven past it. It just was
like...
It's one of those things, you guys know, as you work through your issues, you're able to talk about them.
Yeah.
Without that big giant elephant.
Totally. And it was the first time that I had really verbalized it with her, just saying like, oh, those buildings or those billboards or whatever it is used to be really, really hard for me because it would trigger my shame. It wouldn't trigger like, oh my gosh, I want to like pull over and find a bathroom and act out.
No.
It wasn't like that at all. So ultimately what I'm saying is through consistent effort and mental focus, it's possible for both the betrayed and the addicted to heal and to not be triggered and to be in a really good place so that moments like that and environments like that don't hijack you.
So the reason we wanted to share this is because we get a lot of questions of, is this always going to be like this? Am I always going to go to a pool and feel this anxiousness, or am I always going to worry about what he's looking at or what he's thinking, and vice versa? Like, am I always going to feel this anxiety of going to Costco and seeing a pretty woman? The answer is no. Like, if you really choose to work on mindfulness, which is recovery, then you can get out of that. It takes mindfulness on both parts. It's not just like, hey, you were once addicted, you need to be mindful of your actions. It's absolutely me. I have to recognize where my head is at, what stories I'm making up, and be vulnerable enough to share.
Yeah.
Right?
It's a thing, and it's possible to heal. And it's possible to be in those moments and still be connected.
Okay, so give them like one quick tip when you're out and about, one thing that really helped you pull out of that you give to your guys you mentor.
Okay. Early stages of recovery when we would be in those places. And I would know that I would be, in public where, I might see someone with striking features, or might see like a Victoria's Secret model who was on this enormous wall, whatever the case is. I would repeat in my head over and over again, early stages, I'm going to focus, 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 I'm going to focus. And the focus was, I'm going to focus on Ashlyn. I'm going to focus on being with her. I'm going to focus on our conversation or with the girls. And the problem is with objectifying and lusting is robbing that individual of their humanity. And I would also try to focus on making up. Here's another tip: is making up some fictional story that was about a person who was, for instance, a big Victoria's Secret model or someone with striking features, so that my mind wouldn't go to lust. Because when my mind would go to lust, they wouldn't be a human anymore. They would be an object to gratify my sexual desires. But when I gave them a story, in as much as it might have been like really fictitious and outlandish,
but it made them human.
It humanized that person, where it was like, oh my gosh, there's that person with striking features.
This person has a parent and a dad, and I have a daughter. Like, there's so many things.
Yeah,
like,
I would make sometimes really, really strong and imaginary ones. Like, maybe this person, against all odds, was raised as an orphan in an orphanage, and had abandonment issues, and by some miracle, through recovering from alcoholism, put herself through school and is now a productive, healthy mother of two. And it's like, wow, there's a story behind that that's like shows what the person really, the respect that the person really deserves, and the benefit of the doubt and the humanity that they deserve. And again, that's all fictitious and made up, but that's what helped me to do that. So I would say, focus, 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 focus. Every time I would get to that place where I'd feel the pull of lusting, or I would also make up stories to grant people and help build humanity behind them.
Also does the 2-second rule.
Oh yeah, for sure. Which and the idea with the 2-second rule is it's about curbing lust, and it's about curbing objectifying.
Because it's human for even me to see a woman and think she's beautiful. It's human for me to see a man and think he's handsome. Mm-hmm. It's human for you to do the same thing.
Exactly. It's human, but it's healthy at the same time to notice something with notice striking features and move on to the next thing without lusting. Like that's a thing.
Yeah.
And just like I can notice a guy that has rad shoulders and chest. It's like, oh my gosh, and I'll say that, Ashley, look at his chest, look at his shoulders, they're amazing. She's like, oh yeah, those are, yeah, I see that. And we're moving on to the next thing. That's a healthy thing. Now, does that mean I'm walking around the mall going, oh, Ashley, look how striking she is? I don't do that.
No,
I don't do that because that's not necessary. It's a matter of, it's just like seeing a striking yellow Ferrari driving on the road and saying, oh, there's a Ferrari. Wow. and then you're moving on to the next thing.
The idea is you're human if you look, right? You are lusting when you look for longer than 2 seconds because you can go into fantasy. And so it's a 2-second rule.
Yep, 2-second rule or a
2 alligator.
yeah. If you look longer than 2 alligator, if you go back for a second,
That would be like a slip in what we call a slip.
which is just lusting. So, hope that helps, and hope that you guys have taken away something from this. Appreciate you guys being here, and appreciate the trust that you have in us, and know that we're thinking of you this time of year. Know that holidays can be a kind of a challenging season for some it's not, and we're happy about that. But we're thinking of you.
Bye, guys.